There is a reprieve this night in the asylum, and Sally does what any sane person would do. She clings to it with all her strength. The weight that sits in her chest melts away, allowing for one starving breath. The scent of sweat and dusty linen is willed from her mind, replaced with memories of tomatoes and fresh soil. Her feet take her down the hall, heels clicking, echoing into an expanse of shadows. She does not allow herself to see the stains on the walls or the fracture in the window's pane. She could draw them from memory, but, for this moment, they cease to exist. As Sally reaches the end of the hall, she peers into a patient's room, illuminated by a blade of moonlight cutting across the floor. A young girl, sitting atop the bed, flinches at the oncoming shadow. Only as Sally walks into the moonlight does the girl release her grip on a bundle of sheets. Sally offers a sympathetic smile to her. The anxious girl. The asylum's file lists her name as Marion, but the staff have codes for each patient: the catatonic boy, the sweaty codger, the anxious girl. Everything they are summarized into 2 words. Sally sits on the edge of the bed, braiding the anxious girl's dry, brittle hair. "Did you visit the community room today?" The anxious girl hugs her pillow. "I stayed here." A light moan carries through the hall, the first indication that peace will soon be broken. Sally does her best to ignore it, weaving one strand of hair over another. "Did you know that room has a chair by the window? You can see the robins building a nest in the trees." The anxious girl looks to the hallway, her shoulders tensing as she listens to the distant moan. Sally gently rubs the girl's shoulder, wordlessly offering her sympathy. They sit for a short time, until a scream carries through the hallway. Sally marches down the hall to the source of the scream. Patients, each in their own rooms, react, an interlude of cries and shrieks joining in, accompanied by the thumping of a head slamming into a wall. The volume builds louder and more chaotic, until finally, as if reaching a crescendo, a patient howls. Sally rushes into a room, moving towards a hideously scarred woman restrained to the bed, whose scream slowly dies into soft, mirthful laughter. "Did you enjoy the song, sweet nurse? I call it Concerto of Lunatics." The asylum is wide awake now, alive, anxious. The scattered shrieks and moans of patients ricocheting through the halls. Sally's chest tightens as she struggles to breathe. Why must you rile them? The broken woman smiles beneath the swathe of bandages over her scarred face. Through 2 small holes, mismatched eyes, blue and orange, sparkle. "Oh, sweet nurse, what are the gestures for, if not a laugh?" Sally knows to step away, knows there is nothing to gain from arguing, yet she cannot restrain herself. They are humans, and, sick as they may be, they deserve sympathy. This is a line Sally has told herself many times over the years, though that is all it has become, a line, a series of carefully rehearsed words pushed through chapped lips. Perhaps this is why the broken woman chuckles as if trading quips with a friend. They deserve sympathy? Most have contributed nothing but pain, and the others have contributed nothing at all. Sally makes no attempt to suppress her disgust as she looks at the broken woman's smile. You would criticize your fellow patients for bringing nothing to this world, yet what have you provided? The broken woman awkwardly sits up on her bed, pulling at her restraints like a restless marionette. I have provided more to this world than 1,000 missionaries. When I saw sickness, I did not coddle it, feed it, wipe the tears from its eyes. I cleansed it. The broken woman sees she has Sally's attention. If we want humanity to survive, we must be its custodians, sweet nurse. And yet, we have allowed an infection to fester, the evidence pervading these walls. The broken woman pauses, allowing her point to settle. Shrieks and moans from the mentally insane echo through the halls. Sally feels her nerves tighten with each chaotic noise that comes her way. She has little desire to argue, yet duty compels. Are you not within these walls too? Would that not make you part of the infection? The broken woman smiles as if expecting this question. I am the solution, condemned to the halls of the infected. Like you, I was a nurse, but I served not the patients, but the greater good. With one simple injection, I removed the weak from the gene pool. I watched them in their death throes, knowing my actions were backed by honest science so few have the strength to trust. And do you know what the courts called me for following logic? Insane. The days pass, but Sally's unsure how many. She always finds herself back in the asylum, tending to the frantic, the violent, the feeble. Down the hall, the bad man has slipped his restraints again. Like a wolf, he shows no motive but to prowl for the weak, and it appears he's found his prey. He drags the naked body of the rancid son by the ankles. Blood spills from the son's head. Sally does not know if the man is dead. Calling for help, she sprints down the hall with a syringe filled of sedatives. There are no other nurses to come to her aid. Financial restrictions have seen to that. She considers that she is running to her death this time, but there is something involuntary in her movements, as if she has become a spectator. The bad man lets go of the rancid son's ankles and turns his attention to Sally. He fails to notice Harvey Kavanagh, the plump orderly, round the corner behind him. Harvey slams the bad man into the floor as he's done to so many patients. Sally jabs a sedative into the bad man's neck. The bad man sags in place, and with a look of bewilderment, falls to the ground. The decrepit hall is silent. Sally looks over the scene at her feet. Kavanagh's sizable frame hefts up and down as he catches his breath, thick arms slung over the bad man who rests peacefully. The rancid son, either unconscious or dead, lies beneath them with Kavanagh's boot pressed against his nostril. The smear of blood from his head goes on for 30 feet down the hall before curling into an adjacent room. Sally laughs to stop herself from screaming. Sally finds herself in the broken woman's room. The mismatched eyes of the broken woman appear sympathetic as the sunlight shimmers over them, yet she speaks with sharpened words. Shame about that bloody disturbance yesterday. Boys like that are made a certain way, not built for civil society. The big brutish one, well, it is as plain as the skin on his face. And the other, the other one hides it well. But have you looked at his family's name? That will explain everything. Sally wills herself to think of a gentle lake, lilies, and no. All she can see are the grimy asylum walls and bloody bandages. There are no gentle breezes to distract her, only the broken woman's voice, prodding deeper. Did you not have a husband, sweet nurse? I recall the newspaper article. Hand a heart, my dear. I cried at his unfortunate death. You would have had beautiful babies. To now be here, a widow of pure genes, serving the filth of the world. Such a turn of events. Sally gets up, leaving a bandage half-wrapped. Her feet shuffle imprecisely as she moves for the door. She tries to push her thoughts away, knows she shouldn't think it, but it is such cruelty. Her love was pure, her husband pure, and those who live in these halls are anything but. Yet these sick, twisted beasts receive the care and attention deserved to the man she lost. Her throat catches on each breath. Her vision blurs. She wants to run, but knows it's no use. No matter where she goes, she always finds herself back in these halls. With swirling thoughts, one stark realization breaks through. It is not she who keeps the insane confined to these halls, but the insane who confine her. She falls to the unforgiving floor. A lush green field dotted with salmon-colored lilies and patches of pine trees surround the lake. The colors are more vibrant than Sally remembers, and though it smells of fresh rain, the sky is clear. Andrew sits next to her on a blanket, his blonde hair nearly white in the sun. She wears the dress he had bought her. A symbol of my love, he had written on the card, and for a man of few words, it meant many. He wipes the grass stains from his calloused hands and turns to Sally. We should get home. The lake will still be here tomorrow. A cold breeze sweeps through the meadow, bringing with it the scent of sweat and dusty linen. She grips his wrist with both hands. Just one more minute. Please, one more. She hears saws ripping through lumber, the sound heightening with each violent slash. Tighter, she holds Andrew's wrist, pressing her head into his shoulder and bracing herself. An immense tree slams to the ground behind her, sending twigs and dirt into the air. One after another, they come down in booming, ground-shaking jolts. Sally coughs through a cloud of dust, keeping her grip on Andrew the entire time. A bead of blood trickles down his arm, coming to rest on her finger. She looks up to see her husband's skull broken open, spilling blood and chunks of brain. One stark white eye looks out from the carnage, focused intently on her. We would have had beautiful babies, Sally. She collapses into the crimson muck of his chest and cries. The skin on her hands flakes away, turning to dust. She loses her grip on him. Everything she was, down to the dress she wore, decays, blown away in the wind. The sweaty hands of Kavanagh shake her as she awakes on the asylum floor. She's in the hallway again. The scent, the stains, her heels clicking. It's the same. Occasional moans and shouts carry from nearby rooms, short bursts of mania or terror that emerge and intermingle. The concerto of lunatics. Sally enters the anxious girl's room and sits at the foot of her bed. The girl flinches, but after a second's pause, lifts herself up. Illuminated under moonlight, she offers a timid yet warm smile. Sally takes 3 strands of the girl's hair and begins to weave a braid. Did you see the robins today? But Sally doesn't wait for the girl's answer. Another day hiding, wasn't it? And what about the robins? They will be dead by the time you leave this room. The girl's shoulders tense, and Sally feels herself do the same. She takes a deep breath, attempting to calm herself. As she parts the hair back from the anxious girl's skull, she spies tiny writhing creatures. An infestation of lice crawls through the girl's hair. Sally pulls her hand back and slaps the girl across her face. Filthy! Their eyes lock. Confusion and startlement among them both. Tears trickle down the anxious girl's helpless face, wet chin trembling. Sally takes a step back. She thinks to apologize, to explain the stress she's been under, but something in her refuses. Filthy girl! She storms from the room. Sally, her face emotionally void, sits next to the broken woman's bed. She finds herself more and more in this position, listening to the woman ramble. The broken woman fidgets with her restraints, fixated on an unscarred piece of skin at the base of her hand. Purification comes in many forms. We must all make sacrifices. She curls a finger inwards and scratches at the clean piece of skin until it's torn off. For the most grotesque offenders, the genetic abominations, we must take extreme measures. Otherwise you get, well, the results surround you. Sally sits motionless, her tired eyes the only indication that she's conscious. The broken woman speaks as if chatting with a friend over tea. Do you know what I could do? I could tell you the ingredients for my special injection, the one I used on my patients. A quick little prick and they'll writhe as if a purifying fire burns within, a fitting way to deal with inhuman filth, wouldn't you say? Are you hearing me, sweet nurse? You don't have to be their servant anymore. Sally feels the asylum closing in on her. Whispers of paranoid lunatics spill through the cracks. She wonders how long she can walk this hallway. Questions if it ever ends. She passes the catatonic boy in his wheelchair, staring deep into the walls. He gazes in her direction, though his eyes look through her. Has the trial begun? He lets out a scream, pausing as if having startled himself, then laughs. Harvey Kavanagh, the fat orderly, emerges from a patient's room and gives her a smile. The skin on his neck dangles as he moves, glistening with sweat. A thick coat of hair covers his arms and curls over the collar of his shirt. His eyes move from Sally's feet upwards, pausing on her chest until he realizes she's watching him. His eyes dart to examine the floor as he nervously licks his mouth. Ahead, the foul girl skips gracefully, enjoying her first day out of restraints in a month. She hums a pleasant tune, tracing her hand over the wall. As Sally approaches, the girl tilts her head forward. She lets out a long, guttural sound, heaving her diaphragm until vomit splashes onto the floor. Content with herself, she smiles and skips on. Sally continues, giving no thought to cleaning the mess. She sees the shoeless imbecile sitting by the broom closet. Thick strands of blood drip from his mouth. With precise rhythm, he slams his jaw into the door frame 6 times, digs at his gums, and pulls out a tooth. He peers at Sally as if she's the strangest thing he's ever seen. Sally looks out at the hallway, stretching on forever. She stops, accepting what she's tried to suppress. The sickness can grow no more. Sally fills the syringe as the broken woman instructed. Thick, dark liquid swirls within, a night sky void of stars. The helpless anxiety that crippled her vanishes under a sea of calm. Though her heels click with each step, she feels as if she floats, as if everything she's to do has been determined, requiring only the gentlest breeze to push her forward. She sees the sickness clearly. It has infected all, but the most hideous is the one who refuses to face it, the dog that doesn't know it's a dog, and so she makes her way to the broken woman's room. Strange how, for all the woman's wisdom, she is blind to her impurities. Though she removes the blemishes from her skin, she fails to judge the mismatched eyes that gaze at her in the mirror. But no amount of carving can remove genetics. Such a case requires extreme measures. Sally grips the syringe and prepares for what's to come. There is such filth that permeates the asylum. If she is to cleanse it all, she had best begin.